The time has come, and my hair is wild as ever because it's the morning again. We're back to morning recordings after like one video of not recording in the morning with the My Hero. We are here for the final 2 episodes of Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake, and I'm really excited. Last episode was crazy. We got to see a reality where Jerry got to eliminate all life. The Lich, of course. And that was awesome. That was a very eerie episode. It was definitely wild to see in multiple senses. And now we enter the final 2 episodes of Fionna and Cake. And things are crazy. And I am really curious how this is finally going to go. The next episode is called Casper and Nova, which I don't have the slightest clue what that even could mean. Because I don't think I know those names from anywhere in Adventure Time, unless the only thing I could think of that's a possibility, but I'm pretty sure they were called something else, is in the last episode of Adventure Time, the 2 potatoes. You know what I'm talking about from the future. I don't think that was their names though, because there was like a special OP for it and everything. But I like almost bet money that that's not their names. So if that's not the case, I actually have no idea where these names are from. Unless they're gender bent names of characters and it's referring to something in like the Fionna and Cake world. But yeah, I don't know. But I also never would have guessed Jerry referred to the fucking Lich. So this could literally be anything. This could be Finn and Jake, Fionna and Cake, something else. There was a lot of great stuff that happened in the last set. It was crazy, and I'm excited to finish this. And you guys are actually going to be getting this a day early because, of course, now in classic fashion, I'm having some issues with Danganronpa, and so now I'm recording this for today instead of tomorrow because woohoo. So you guys are going to be getting Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake a day early. Again, because it like almost never came out when it was supposed to come out, but more often than not, it was early as opposed to late, I think. I don't actually know if it was ever late. So, I guess you guys aren't complaining. It doesn't matter. It just means Thursday and Saturday will both be rotational days this week. And also, we're done with Adventure Time, so there'll be more rotational time in general. This was kind of just a short-term thing. I wanted to, instead of taking 5 weeks to get through it, I wanted to get through it, 5 days, 5, one video a week. I wanted to get through it quicker. And so I, decided to do it the way I did it, and now here we are at the end. And now, like I said, but there'll be more rotation focused time, and I'm really looking forward to it. We also got some soda action because this is a finale. You always got to have a little soda action in the finale. Usually we're rocking Coke. Once in a while it's Dr. Pepper. We got some Starry today. Good. If you've never heard of it, it's in the same vein as 7-Up and Sprite as a caffeine-free lemon lime soda, that type of deal. I'm excited though. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm curious to see what this actually ends up looking like. So, yeah, me and my sussy hair, because this is the lovely morning. Are excited, and we want to find out what Casper and Nova's all about, so let's jump into Adventure Time. Fionna and Cake, the penultimate episode, episode 9, in 3, 2, 1, and play. I really don't have a lot to say about that episode. It was good. Obviously the golf stuff with Simon and the Scarab was great. Like that stuff, and the Lich, all of them involved, like that stuff was great. But I don't know how to explain that. I actually thought, like, weirdly enough, personally, that was actually one of the weaker episodes of Fionna and Cake. Like, it was good. There was nothing wrong with it. I just think this is kind of more about Fionna and Cake has been so good. I've loved it so much that I honestly think that was one of the weaker episodes. Just kind of, it's weird given it was the second to last episode of the series, but I don't really feel like a lot actually happened in that episode. And I don't really think a lot of interesting stuff happened. I thought the last set, The Star, was such a great episode, and what was episode? Jerry was insanity. Jerry was goated, right? I felt like this episode was good, but it didn't really have that oomph to it. And I assume the finale, regardless of my overall thoughts on it, I'm sure the finale will have a punch to it because it's literally the finale. But given this was the penultimate episode, I will say that this is the first time in this entire show where I guess I was kind of expecting more than I got. Which I think says a lot to the expectations that have built over the course of the show. Because I kind of went into this, I knew everyone loved this show pretty much, but I kind of went into this having no clue what I was getting into. But now that we're near the end, I have a pretty good grasp of the type of stuff that we've been doing, and I actually thought that that was a little underwhelming. But it was a good episode. The Casper and Nova thing, interesting that was the title, because that was actually a small segment of what was going on, but obviously it was symbolic. You know, whether you want to make the Finn and Jake, Fionna and Cake kind of analogy, or even Simon and Betty, you know, there's a lot of examples of that type of dynamic in the show in different forms. In the series, I'll just say Adventure Time generally. Yeah, we got to see Shermie and Beth, which, again, was a thing from Come Along With Me, the main series finale. And so that was really cool. Actually, in the prediction, it's so funny that I was like, I don't remember their names, but I remember them. And I thought maybe that Casper and Nova was their names, and it turns out, no, they're Shermie and Beth. But yes, they're actually in the episode, which is hysterical. I kind of weirdly predicted, based on the title, something that I only predicted because I didn't remember their names, because I haven't rewatched Adventure Time all the way through yet. I'm only halfway through, so, yeah, so I will say, though, I have watched a little more. I did finish, season 5. I did finish season 5 of Adventure Time now in my rewatch, so I'm a little further than I was, but still got a long way to go. What a crazy episode, though. I guess I did ironically just watch Betty as well, which I guess is kind of relevant given that Betty's been a big part of Fionna and Cake. But yeah, this has been an awesome ride. This has been an awesome experience. I've enjoyed this show so much. I'm going to go over this more after we do episode 10, but I'm really excited for this finale. So Fionna, Cake, Hunter, Marshall Lee, and Gary are going to look for portals, and Fiona's going to try and help Simon. And I think we're probably gonna have a really cool Simon and Fionna moment at the end here, and it could go multiple ways. Maybe Fionna and Cake's world gets restored to normal, or maybe Simon remains Simon, and Fiona's okay with her world staying the way it is. The one problem here is, well, there's really is how do we get the scarab off our ass, right? Because if we can't kill the scarab, so how do we take care of the scarab? Because the scarab doesn't want to let this go. Now, Prismo is breaking out, and Prismo's most likely going to break out, and in the process, Prismo is most likely going to be involved in the solution for the scarab, especially because the scarab is basically doing things he's not supposed to. Ironically, the scarab is doing, in his hunt for, to prove that Prismo's an ass, he's ironically doing exactly what Prismo is doing, which is ignoring his primary responsibilities. So it is kind of one of those weird things where the Scarab's own drive and determination to get his prey, weirdly enough, is also the thing that's going to be his undoing in all likelihood. In like in the extra dimensional, like crazy super beings of the Adventure Time universe, like himself and Prismo, gonna get fucked up, and that's really funny. So I imagine that Prismo will be chiefly responsible for Scarab's defeat. Simon and Fionna are probably going to have a great moment together. That's going to be really cool. And I'm curious to see whether Simon ends up as the Ice King and Fionna gets her Fantasyland, or if Simon stays as Simon and Fiona's world stays non-magical. Because I think that is more likely, because I think Simon is going to learn to accept to be himself and live without Betty. I hope that he finds acceptance in this last episode. There's a very high chance he doesn't, but I think that's what Betty's trying to get through to him. And then the other part of it is besides the gold stuff is Fionna is realizing that her world ain't so bad and that maybe she's not cut out for all this and everything like that. So Fionna might also accept it. So it's like a double acceptance thing. That would be very thematic, but we're going to have huge character moments for Fionna and Simon in this episode, and I'm really excited for it. But before we do that, we do have to look at the final title, and it's appropriately called Cheers. Unfortunately, I'm not... I'm familiar with Cheers, but I obviously am not like a Cheers guy. Like, it's not like I've watched like a bunch of Cheers, so I don't know if this ending's going to be a reference to Cheers or maybe a reference to the ending of Cheers or anything like that. If I was more familiar with Cheers, I might be able to better, and you'd be surprised how you could apply a show like that to a show like this, because there are a lot of ways to do that type of thing. But, it's time to finish Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake, so, hey, if you're drinking something, cheers. Cheers, everyone. Cheers. Obviously, we're going to let the credits roll for the finale. Oh, that was cute. Federator! Shouts to CN. Shouts to HBO Max. Or, sorry, Max. It's just Max these days. Shouts to CN. Shouts to Max. Shouts to all the people that worked on the show. That was great. So I will say, while I thought episode 9 was one of the weaker episodes, I loved the finale. The finale was great. One thing I appreciate about Fionna and Cake is the entire series was, as awesome as it was, as cool as it was, as interesting as it was, as unique as it was a mini-series. And I like that we told a nice, self-contained story that added a lot, that added more, like, lore and cool shit to the Adventure Time world, but also was kind of its own thing. And obviously, we got to taste a lot of cool stuff through the cross-dimensional, multiversal type stuff that they did. And I think they did that in a pretty cool way. But I think the real takeaway from Fionna and Cake is this was a very much a story, a character piece on Simon, on our Simon, and I guess you could say the Fionna. And we got some stuff with Cake and other characters too, but it really focused on Simon and Fionna. And it's really interesting how this show did a really good job of further expanding on just how great of a character Simon Petrikov really is. And there's a reason why I think many people would say he's the best character in Adventure Time. I think he's one of the most brilliantly constructed characters I've ever seen in Western animation, in cartoons. Like, it's actually insane. Now, obviously, across the sea on the other side of the Pacific, there's some crazy animated series that have come out of a little island country called Japan that I think has had tons of just insanely complex, deep, thought-provoking characters. But obviously, as we've talked about many times on this channel, and one of the things that I love is the slow growth of adult-oriented animation in the West. Even something like this, which was a show that, while, it was an amazing show, glorious show, and a show that anyone of any age could enjoy, this was a show that still was directed towards a younger audience, Adventure Time. And to see how over all that time, all those years, that we get something like this, which very clearly was oriented towards, I want to say, like a teenage audience, a young adult audience. Like, Fionna and Cake was definitely made for a older demographic than Adventure Time. They absolutely were going for, hey, the people that grew up on Adventure Time will really like this Fionna and Cake series. That's absolutely the vibes they were going for here, and it was really cool to see that. And it was something that, and it felt like such a natural progression for this universe. None of it felt out of place, and it just really worked. And I think Adventure Time is awesome. Adventure Time is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It's kind of one of my hallowed cartoons that I really stand really hard. I always talk about, it's one of them. Gravity Falls, of course, is another. And there's several others, Avatar, The Last Airbender, etc. I won't go through all of them, but Adventure Time is one of those if someone was to ask me what's your favorite, like, Western cartoon of all time, Adventure Time's on the list. Whether it's number one or not, it's in the discussion. It's one of the answers that if someone else gave me, I would be like, say no more, I get it. And I think that's a testament to how great it was over so many episodes, so many seasons. And, even when we got Adventure Time Distant Lands, those specials were awesome. And now we have Fionna and Cake, which I think was even better. I think the peaks of Distant Lands, and especially Together Again or Together Forever, I always forget if it's Together Again or Together, I think it's Together Again, was just so peak. But this, I think, was so consistently great. I think Fionna and Cake, from the beginning to the end, was awesome. There were obviously high points, and, there were some episodes that were better than others, generally speaking, but overall, this was such a fun dive into the Adventure Time multiverse, and we really got to see a lot of stuff. I feel like this had a lot of fan service, but none of it felt egregious. I feel like we had a lot of just great storytelling, and I feel like we got to see that even after the end of Adventure Time, that things were far from hunky-dory with Simon's character, and we got to further explore his character. And I feel like in a way that only just continues to show just how tragic he is, and just how much, how likable he is, how easy it is to root for Simon. And it's just, he's the GOAT. Like, there's a reason why he's one of the greatest. I mean, he's a GOAT. Like, he's legitimately one of my favorite cartoon characters of all time. And, he's like, and I think he's objectively the best character in Adventure Time. Now, I'll still stand Marceline. You guys know I love Marceline to no end. I also love Bubblegum, but I do love Ice King more than Bubblegum. But Marceline's one of my favorite cartoon characters of all time. And I will probably say that even after all that, I probably still like Marceline a tiny bit more than Simon. But Simon, I think, is the better character. I think Marceline's an amazing character, too. It's just, there's levels to this. But Simon is the GOAT. And there's just not really that much else to say about it. He is that good. And it feels like every time they further build on his character, he gets better. Everything in this was amazing. The way that, I never would have guessed going into Fionna and Cake how much this story would revolve around Betty and Simon. I didn't expect that coming in. I didn't even expect our Simon to be in the story. And he was literally a main character. He almost, like I said, to me it was like 50-50 between Fionna and Simon, to be honest. Like he was practically the main character, despite not being a titular character in this mini-series. But like I said, I felt like nothing was too, like, obviously there were super high stakes, the fate of our world and all that, life and death, but it was one of those things where I feel like it didn't go too over the top. For all the insane things that we saw, it felt like on the level of what this special was, what this miniseries was, and everything felt right. And it's one of those things where the Adventure Time universe is so well equipped to do this. And here's the thing, I don't really want Fionna and Cake season 2. Personally, I think it would be great if they did it. I would be hyped. But what I kind of want, and this is again assumptuous because I'm just assuming, I have no idea, but I'm assuming this did really well on Max because it's Adventure Time, and obviously they did Distant Lands on HBO Max, and that did well because they did Fionna and Cake happen, everything. Like, you get the point. Like, there's a big interest from Warner Brothers Discovery for more Adventure Time content. Assuming that we're getting even more at some point, right? We're going to dive into the Adventure Time universe for a 4th time at some point down the line. I want another mini-series like this, and I want it to be something else. Like, I don't know what, but I like the idea of Adventure Time. Maybe every couple of years we get like a mini-series that just adds on to the universe, and we can do stories about different characters. We could do stories in different points in the timeline. We could do stories about, we could do like a Bubblegum Marceline centric thing. We could do more Simon stuff because nobody's ever going to complain about Simon stuff. We could do older Finn and Jake stuff. We could go back to Fionna, of course. We could do, there's so many things you can do. And because, and I think it would be, given that this was the multiversal thing, I feel like if they do go down this type of route, I would like the next one to be focused in our primary universe. Like I said, probably either another like a Finn and Jake thing or a Marceline and Bubblegum thing. I think either one would be awesome. I think something like that, that takes place at some point after the end of the series would probably be where my mind goes as far as an interesting storyline. But I like the idea of the limited series. It's a self-contained. It's a pretty serialized narrative in a relatively, essentially a small season, and that's the story, beginning, middle, end. And there's no worries about it needing to get confirmed for another part. And it's one of those things where, like, I like that idea because at any time, if the people involved in making it, or WBD or anyone is like, I don't think we want to do this anymore, no harm, no foul. The last thing I want is for us to get an Adventure Time series after all this time and then it never gets finished or anything like that. Like, Adventure Time wrapped up so neatly, it was great, and we've gotten extra add-ons to really to enhance that even further. And now I just want, if we're going to do more adventure content, it needs to be like this. I want more like a Fionna and Cake stuff. Or if they want to do a movie, you could do a movie. But I think the limited series, I like this format. 10 episodes at regular TV length. So basically, in this case, it was basically 10 double-length Adventure Time episodes. That's perfect. That's it's plenty of time to tell a great story. It'll never overstay its welcome. this is kind of where I'm landing on Adventure Time. I think this is the format. Now, I don't mind the Distant Lands format. What I didn't like about the Distant Lands format, I didn't mind personally, but for like a consumer, for the average fan, is we would get one episode every like few months, or sometimes it felt like longer than that. But I don't mind the format of doing like four specials at 44 minutes apiece. Like that format could work. I mean, both of these formats are great. But I really think this limited series format, and you have the episodes coming out, weekly, and I like the way they did it, 2 episodes a week, 5-week kind of, basically get through it in a month, and it's like a big month where anyone, in this kind of fandom, and really, I guess, in the greater, like, cartoon fandom community is going to be talking about Adventure Time, and I think the way this was structured made a lot of sense. Obviously, I started it once it finished. I think my first reaction was the same day that the 1 and 2, my 1 and 2, I think was the same day that 9 and 10 were officially released, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's one of those things where obviously I wanted to do it when it was done so I could, go through all of it and without having to wait for any or anything like that. But I absolutely loved Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake. I thought it was a great showing for Adventure Time. I think it's a great addition to the hollowed lineage of Adventure Time between the main series, Distant Lands, and now Fionna and Cake. And I'm excited for the prospect of more Adventure Time content. I think more than I was after Distant Lands. I was excited for Distant Lands, and it did not disappoint me. But I really thought after Distant Lands, okay, that's it. Now watching Fionna and Cake, which we've known about forever, it feels like. But now actually watching Fionna and Cake, I'm more open to the idea of more Adventure Time content. Like, I was always going to be excited. I'd always be down, obviously. But, like, I'm into the idea, especially in this type of format. Like, I do want to stress, I don't think Adventure Time should ever come back as a full-time show. I don't really want that in any context. Like, I don't want, like, an epilogue series that's, like, a proper series that's getting season after season. I don't want that. There's no Adventure Time story that I want to be a long story at this point. We had that. That was Adventure Time. But these limited series, I think, are cute as fuck. And I think, at this point, they're nice additions to the show, and I think this is what I want. If we're gonna do Adventure Time content at this point, I want it in this type of format. Like I said, it could be the Distant Lands format, or, which was 4 essentially quadruple length Adventure Time episodes, these being 10 double length Adventure Time episodes. But the point is, however the format is, I want a limited series that's not that long, that's concise, gets to the point, and tells its story, beginning, middle, and end. Now, the difference is Distant Lands were 4 unique episodes, 4 unique stories, kind of like 4 classic Adventure Time episodes, but 4 times the length, and obviously other things. Whereas this was a singular serialized narrative through 10 double-length episodes. So very different in that sense. But whatever the case may be, I had a blast watching Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it as well. This was awesome. I thought that last episode was fantastic. Again, probably not the best episode or anything, but it was a great finale, and I definitely think that, like I said, episode 9 was probably one of my least favorite episodes, but I loved episode 10. I loved the conclusions we got to with both Simon and Fionna. I thought that was beautiful. I kind of had like a little almost cry, kind of half cry sort of deal there, because it did hit. It definitely hit. And I'm so excited to share this last video with you guys. Unfortunately, a day early, because I'm having some sus with my Danganronpa 0 finale, but that's neither here nor there. I know that's not that many people watch that anyways, so most of you watching here probably don't also watch that, but if you do, that is coming soon, so don't worry. Once I get all that fixed, it'll be out. But Anyways, this is it for Fionna and Cake, coming out a day early, probably later in the day than normal. But so yeah, Thursdays are just like rotational days now. That's just it. Thursdays are clear because obviously I was doing March Comes In Like a Lion and now Fionna and Cake on Thursdays, quote unquote, not really. But yeah, no, moving forward, Thursdays are just going at least for the foreseeable future. Thursdays are going to be a rotational upload day on most weeks, or like not a non-rotational like weekly thing. That's Thursdays are kind of, for the time being, are retired from that role. It's going to be Fridays and Saturdays that primarily will fill that role for the foreseeable future. But yeah, that's going to pretty much do it for this series. So if you want to support the channel, my Patreon's down below in the description. Other links are down below in the description as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So without any further ado, it's time for me to bid you adieu. The Flamin' Shark and Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake. Signing out. Hope you all have a wonderful, fantastical day. Maybe I'll see you with more Adventure Time down the line. Maybe this is it. But whatever the case may be, I want to thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful, fantastical day. Arrivederci.